Hey, what's going on, everyone? Lauren Sisler here with AL.com. Welcome you into our Week 3 SEC Insider, our Thursday SEC Insider, brought to you by All South Appliance Group. Joining me now, our SEC Insider, Matt Zenitz, and he's in front of a brick wall. So we might perhaps be running through brick walls this weekend as we get ready for another great weekend of SEC college football. Looking forward to it. And so we're gonna talk about a couple things on Alabama's side of the football. We're gonna talk a little bit about Auburn, and then we're gonna kind of venture out into the SEC. And Matt, I'll start with you. Is there any chance that Ole Miss makes things interesting? Any chance at all that Lane Kiffin, I guess, breaks that record of 20-0 that Nick Saban has against his former assistants, now turned head coach?
Yeah, I don't think he's going to become the first assistant to get a win over Coach Saban by any means. But at the same time, I do think this game is going to be interesting. I think there are some interesting elements to the matchup, specifically the Ole Miss defense against Alabama's, or the Ole Miss offense against Alabama's defense. So we, with the Ole Miss offense, have put up terrific numbers through the first couple games, have that up-tempo, hurry-up offense that has helped to put them in a position to put up 35 points against a good Florida defense, 42 points against a solid Kentucky defense, and now go into a game against Alabama's defense that is coming off a performance against Texas A&M where they allowed 450 yards, and it's a defense that's still very much a work in progress at this point. And we'll see how they do now against that combination of Lane Kiffin, Jeff Lebby, and a player group that includes the second leading passer in the SEC right now, and Matt Corral.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to this matchup. I think that we're going to see some explosive plays on both sides of the football. I'm definitely anxious to see. Obviously to me, this Alabama offense, I mean, they've just got weapons galore. I think that we're seeing guys kind of come out and sort of make a name for themselves. Guys that we knew already existed. Obviously, Mechie had a great game last week, and I'll be interested in seeing how the run game and the run attack is. Obviously, Ole Miss not playing well against the run at all. So that Land Shark defense, we'll see if the Land Sharks show up, obviously, this weekend. So that'll be interesting. We go to the Auburn side of things. So Auburn facing Arkansas back at home in Jordan-Hare Stadium. I'll actually be on the sidelines for that football game. Weather might be an issue. I think that's obviously a storyline that we're kind of tracking this week as we see the hurricane come in. Where's it going to go? And earlier this week it looked like it would be pretty bad. I'm not sure where we're at in terms of how bad it's going to be on Saturday at kick time, 3:00 Central. But speaking of tracking and going down a bad path, where is Auburn right now? How do you feel, obviously, coming out of that Georgia game, going into this Arkansas game? Arkansas's got some juice. They're coming off a win, obviously, first SEC win after 20 games. Again, it was a good win for Arkansas, no doubt about it. So what are your thoughts on just the direction Auburn has headed early in the season?
It's funny because as recently as a week ago, I think most people probably would have had it as a foregone conclusion that Auburn was going to win this game. Now, all of a sudden, it's a legitimate question mark because Auburn, to put it nicely, looked terrible during that loss to Georgia, lose by 3 touchdowns in that game, and had some serious issues from an offensive standpoint to where that's a legitimate concern for them moving forward now, and now face an Arkansas team where what was one of the keys for them last week against Mississippi State? That defense. That defense led by Barry Odom played really, really well and has them in position where I think it's going to be a legitimate challenge for Gus, Chad Morris, and that offense now going into this week. But simply put, with Auburn, they have a defense that's still good enough to win with, even if that defense isn't to the same level as what it's been during the course of the last couple of years. But they need more out of that offense. They need more than the 216 yards that they got against Georgia. They need to get the running game to a point where they can finally have a player within that running back group reach even the 40-yard mark in terms of rushing yards in a single game, which they have not accomplished to this point. They need more, and this all of a sudden becomes a more interesting game now, especially considering what Arkansas has done defensively than I would have assumed that this game would have been as recently as a week ago.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And I think injuries are going to play a factor in that as well. Who's going to be healthy, who's not. And we're talking on Auburn and
Yep.
Arkansas side of the football. Obviously, that'll be information that we get heading into the game, probably closer to kickoff, who's available, who's not. You got to keep in mind, obviously, the testing is being done every week in terms of COVID. Usually the teams will test Thursday. They'll get the results Friday. So that'll be kind of the final rundown depth chart that we'll get there. So, of course, we'll hear more about that hopefully tomorrow. And then last but not least, if you've got one player, maybe two, we'll let you run with this one. Who so far in the SEC has been the most impressive player to you through 2 games?
Yeah, so it'd be really easy to go with one of the quarterbacks. Obviously, it would be easy to go with somebody like Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, obviously known guys coming into the year. I'm going to go with a position group that sometimes doesn't get the credit that it deserves, and that's the tight end position group. And the player I'll go with is Kyle Pitts from Florida. So a special, rare talent at tight end who did some great things last year for Florida, was actually a first-team All-SEC guy, but has taken his game to even a greater level this year, has 6 touchdowns through the first 2 games, and continues to show why SEC coaches were so impressed with him and so high on him coming into the season. The way he's looked through the first couple of games, I mean, he's making a legitimate case to be, when it's all said and done, a top 10, top 15 NFL draft pick. Maybe, I mean, Vernon Davis was the last tight end to go in the top 6 or 7 of the draft, and that was back in like 2006. Kyle Pitts may change that at some point in the near future. And then, hey, I have to give some love to the defensive side of the ball also. And a guy who, I mean, we've already talked about Arkansas. A guy who's really made a big difference for them through the first couple of games is Bumper Poole. Great name at linebacker, but some great play to go along with that also through the first couple of games. And he was definitely a big key for them during that win over Mississippi State, where led a defensive effort where they held that Mississippi State offense to only 2 touchdowns, more than 200 yards less than what they had put up against LSU the week before. And in doing so, posted a ridiculous number in terms of tackles, and finished with 20 tackles during the course of that game.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up Bumper Poole. Obviously, we'll be covering him this weekend. Bumper, actually, for the record, everyone, is his legal name. When he was born, that was a nickname that he had inherited. His dad wanted to call him Bumper, so his mom was like, no, we're not calling him Bumper. We'll nickname him that. And he's like, I'm running with this. So I guess when he was in his teens, maybe 16, he decided of the legal age that he could legally change his name. He went with Bumper. So I love it. I think it's great. I'm excited to see how things go. Obviously, he was a little bit banged up, but I think that'll be important to get him back in this Auburn Arkansas game this weekend. Good stuff, Matt Zenitz. We appreciate you, and we also appreciate our sponsors, All South Appliance Group, proud sponsor of SEC Insider. We invite you to visit us online at myallsouth.com or in any one of our showrooms across Alabama, Tennessee, and Florida.